The drama begins with a young girl named Jenny, who spends her days working inside her grandmother's small restaurant, quietly peeling onions while feeling completely unhappy with her life. Jenny suffers from a serious heart condition, and during her latest hospital visit, the doctor sadly tells her that she may not have much time left to live. After hearing that, Jenny walks through the streets feeling completely exhausted with everything around her. On the way, members of a strange church stop her and try convincing her to believe in them because they claim the end of the world is near. Already frustrated, Jenny angrily tells them she probably will not even live long enough to see that day anyway, causing them to quietly back away from her. That same night, a mysterious man touches the strange water near the city drain, and something terrifying suddenly begins happening to him. The next morning, an elderly man named Kim visits the city office trying to report his friend missing, but nobody there really takes him seriously. At the same time, a man named Sun arrives complaining once again about the filthy drainage area. Everyone in town already knows him for constantly complaining about everything, so they throw the problem onto the new employee named Lee. Unlike everyone else, Lee stays cold and emotionless, while Sun angrily argues with him about the dangerous garbage near the drain. Lee calmly tells him they already placed warning signs there and there is nothing more they can do because the place belongs to private property. Later, while eating alone, Lee is approached by Kim, who quietly warns him that many people in the city have been mysteriously disappearing recently, exactly like what happened 20 years ago. Lee does not seem interested and ignores most of what Kim says. Not long after, members of the same strange church approach Lee too and aggressively try recruiting him. Annoyed, Kim crushes their flyer and throws it away. But moments later, one of the church members suddenly destroys his car right in front of him using impossible strength. For the first time, Kim looks genuinely shocked. Meanwhile, Jenny keeps begging her grandmother for money because she desperately wants to travel and enjoy life before it is too late. Her grandmother refuses and asks about her medical results, but Jenny hides the truth because she does not want anyone worrying about her. Instead, she secretly decides to leave on her own. She opens her savings box, packs a travel bag, and quietly sneaks outside. But one of the restaurant workers quickly catches her. Jenny asks him for money too, only to realize he is just as broke as she is, so she leaves alone anyway. At the same time, Sun's miserable life becomes clearer. His wife controls everything inside the house because she is the one paying for everything, leaving Sun constantly embarrassed and powerless. Even his own daughter pretends not to know him after he trips in public while wearing cheap slippers. Feeling pathetic, Sun later visits his friend Kang, and the two sit together complaining about their terrible financial situations. Meanwhile, Jenny visits the market to buy supplies for her trip. She tries staying unnoticed, but everyone recognizes her immediately because her reputation as the crazy granddaughter of the restaurant owner is already famous throughout the town. Even Lee, despite being new there, instantly recognizes her. When he notices Jenny carrying suspicious items and a heavy travel bag beside a car that looks similar to Kim's, he briefly suspects she may have done something to him. Acting on instinct, Lee forces Jenny to open her bag, only to embarrass himself when it turns out to contain nothing dangerous at all. A moment later, something suddenly falls nearby, and Lee instinctively pulls Jenny toward him to protect her before realizing what he just did. Jenny immediately teases him about it, and even demands he pay for cleaning her clothes afterward, which he awkwardly agrees to because he knows he overreacted. Later that night, Jenny talks to her grandmother while her grandmother tearfully tells her she misses the cheerful girl Jenny used to be. Quietly, Jenny replies that the old version of herself died a long time ago. Her grandmother immediately scolds her for constantly talking about death before hanging up. Not long after, Jenny visits Kang and Sun with a ridiculous plan. She asks them to pretend they kidnapped her, film a ransom video, and send it to her grandmother so she can finally get money for traveling. The two idiots actually agree because she promised them a share of the money too. While the three sit together laughing at the ridiculous video they just filmed, nobody notices Jenny suddenly grabbing her chest in pain. Within seconds, her heart completely stops, and she dies right in front of them. Kang immediately breaks down crying, while Sun completely panics because nobody will ever believe they are innocent. At first, they desperately try saving her, but it is already too late. Terrified of getting blamed for everything, Sun decides they need to secretly dump her body near the drainage area where nobody usually goes. Meanwhile, Lee returns home and finds his landlady yelling at him again for making too much noise for the neighbors. After apologizing, he quietly enters his room where everything looks completely scattered and out of place. Sitting alone in the middle of the mess, Lee starts looking through secret files filled with names of children, medical records, and information connected to a doctor named Ha. 20 years earlier, Dr. Ha was running an orphanage for children when a huge explosion happened there. Later, horrifying truths were exposed after Kim, who worked as a guard, confessed that Dr. Ha had secretly been conducting experiments on the children inside the orphanage. From this moment, it becomes clear that Lee has been searching for Kim for a very long time. When Lee finally visits Kim's location, he does not find him there, only a flyer from the mysterious church left behind. At the same time, Kim wakes up trapped inside a locked room and discovers that his missing friend has transformed into a horrifying monster. Meanwhile, Kang and Sun nervously drag Jenny's body toward the drainage area while drowning in guilt and fear. Even though both are terrified, they force themselves to continue. Just as they are about to throw her away, Lee suddenly appears in front of them and asks what they're doing there. Panicking, Kang and Sun quickly try hiding the body behind them, but Lee becomes suspicious and keeps trying to see what they are hiding. While moving around nervously, they accidentally bump into Jenny's body, causing it to fall directly near the drain. The sight completely shocks Lee, and the two idiots desperately try convincing him that everything is fine and that she is definitely not dead. Of course, Lee does not believe them at all and immediately runs toward Jenny in panic while Kang and Sun keep awkwardly explaining themselves. They admit they only pretended to kidnap her, but before they can say anything else, Lee immediately assumes they accidentally killed her and quickly calls the police. Even while he is reporting them, Kang and Sun continue swearing they truly did nothing to her. But when they suddenly look back toward Jenny's body, they freeze in shock because she has completely disappeared. Moments later, the police arrive and ask Lee why he reported a murder. Lee points toward Jenny and says he saw the two men trying to hide the dead body of the restaurant owner's granddaughter. Confused, the officer casually asks Lee if he means the girl standing right behind him. Lee turns around and freezes because Jenny is suddenly standing there completely alive like nothing happened. Even Sun cannot believe what he is seeing and nervously asks Kang if that is really Jenny standing there. Kang becomes so terrified that he nearly faints on the spot. Jenny herself is just as shocked because she clearly remembers dying only moments earlier. However, that is not the strangest part. Jenny suddenly remembers that earlier, when Lee forced her to open her bag at the market, objects around him strangely moved through the air as if he controlled them without touching anything. Meanwhile, Jenny's grandmother contacts a retired detective she knows and asks him to track Jenny's phone location. At first, the detective becomes confused because the signal suddenly appears all the way in Jeju Island, before instantly returning to their town again. Her grandmother realizes something strange is happening and enters Jenny's room, where she discovers that Jenny really had planned to leave home. Meanwhile, the police take Kang and Sun in for questioning. Following Jenny's instructions, both men deny everything and insist they were only walking around the area together. At the same time, the police officer who visited the drainage site earlier suddenly starts sweating heavily and complaining about the disgusting place. Everyone remains confused about how Jenny somehow survived after clearly dying. Jenny herself explains that when she woke up, she briefly saw a diver standing in front of her but has no idea where he came from. Of course, nobody takes her strange story seriously. The group then starts panicking about how they are supposed to explain the fake kidnapping plan to Jenny's grandmother. Unfortunately for them, her grandmother suddenly arrives and overhears everything. Terrified, Kang and Sun immediately run away and hide in different places around the house. While hiding inside a closet, Jenny suddenly experiences something terrifying. Without warning, she finds herself transported into the Joseon era, where she sees people being brutally tortured right in front of her eyes. At the same time, Jenny's grandmother continues yelling at Kang and Sun while searching for her, but when she opens the closet, Jenny is suddenly gone. Moments later, Jenny mysteriously appears again out of nowhere, completely terrified and shaking. She tells them she suddenly saw strange things and felt like she was transported somewhere else entirely. Sun assumes she is only pretending to avoid getting scolded by her grandmother, not realizing she truly experienced something impossible. Quietly listening to all of this from nearby is Lee, who immediately becomes deeply interested in Jenny and the strange things happening around her. Meanwhile, Kim wakes up inside the organization's secret headquarters, where they begin interrogating him about the location of the immortal child. Kim explains that many children survived the experiments 20 years ago, but he does not know which one became the immortal child they are searching for now. However, he clearly remembers another child very well, a boy known only as Subject 3972. The moment they hear that number, everyone inside the organization remembers him instantly. 20 years earlier, Subject 3972 arrived at the orphanage with almost no memories except for a blurry image of a woman hanging laundry outside. As the experiments continued, the boy eventually developed the ability to move objects using only his mind, but he could not control the power properly and nearly died several times because of it. During one dangerous experiment, another child suddenly rushed forward and saved him. That child calmly warned him not to die, but when Subject 3972 asked why he sounded so confident, the boy simply smiled and said that no matter what happened to him, he could never die anyway. That mysterious child later became known as the Immortal Child, the very person the organization is desperately searching for now. Ever since then, Lee has continued seeing painful memories of that time in his dreams. Every time he wakes up, violent noises can be heard from inside his apartment because he completely loses control of his emotions whenever the memories return. Meanwhile, Jenny's grandmother takes her back to the hospital for another examination, expecting terrible news again. Instead, the doctor shocks her by revealing that Jenny's heart condition has completely disappeared. Her body is suddenly healthier than ever, and the doctor himself cannot explain how something so impossible happened except by calling it a miracle. Hearing that word causes Jenny's grandmother to remember something someone once told her long ago, that Jenny was a miracle child. Nervous and deeply worried after hearing the results, she immediately returns home and secretly contacts someone named Choi. At the same time, Sun and Kang sit together drinking while nervously wondering what Jenny's grandmother is going to do to them after discovering the fake kidnapping plan. In frustration, Kang angrily throws an object across the room, only to realize he accidentally smashed part of the wall with impossible strength. He stares at the damage in complete shock, unable to understand what just happened. Meanwhile, Sun returns home and suddenly discovers his hand stuck tightly to the freezer door. No matter how hard he pulls, he cannot free himself, leaving him completely terrified and confused about what is happening to him too. The next day, Jenny's grandmother happily tells her that her health has improved dramatically. She promises to give Jenny money and even buy her a plane ticket if she agrees to follow some rules and get a proper job first. Jenny becomes unbelievably excited after hearing that and happily eats while celebrating the news. Around the same time, Choi contacts Jenny's grandmother again to arrange a meeting. Meanwhile, Jenny begins helping Kang at work, while he still struggles to understand his strange new strength. Suddenly, Lee visits them and asks Jenny whether she knows anything about something called Wonderkinder. Jenny cannot even pronounce the name properly, immediately making Lee suspicious. He directly asks how she survived after clearly dying, but Jenny awkwardly lies and claims she was only sleeping. Afterward, Jenny suddenly remembers the camera used during the fake kidnapping video and panics because it could expose what happened to her. When Kang casually admits he left it near the drainage area, Jenny immediately runs off to retrieve it before someone else finds the footage. On her way there, she notices Lee secretly following her while being completely unaware that someone else is also watching him from the shadows. When Lee finally arrives at the drainage site, he discovers a junk collector already holding the camera. After watching the footage, Lee finally confirms the horrifying truth with his own eyes. Jenny really did die that night, before somehow coming back to life again. After discovering the truth, Lee decides to test Jenny one more time. Without warning, he destroys part of the building above her, causing everything around her to collapse. No matter how desperately Jenny tries escaping, she cannot get out. The only person secretly witnessing everything is Sun, who watches in complete disbelief. But just when the entire place is destroyed, Jenny suddenly disappears again. In the very next moment, she finds herself standing on a ship in the middle of the sea. When the police later trace her phone signal, they become completely confused because it shows Jenny somewhere in territorial waters. One officer even assumes the tracking device must be broken. At the same time, a historical drama playing on television briefly shows someone who looks exactly like Jenny from behind, making everyone think she somehow traveled into the Joseon era again. In reality, she accidentally appeared at a historical filming set instead. Unfortunately, Jenny's problems only become worse because the people on the ship are secretly smuggling illegal goods and mistake her for an undercover officer. They immediately point guns at her and begin shooting. Terrified, Jenny suddenly returns again to the destroyed building as if nothing happened. Lee is still there, searching through the rubble for her body, so when Jenny suddenly appears behind him alive again, he instinctively pushes her away in shock, using his powers without even touching her. After witnessing this impossible scene, Lee finally becomes certain that he truly is Subject 3972 from the experiments 20 years ago. Meanwhile, a girl inside the organization begins remembering Lee as well. Another woman reminds her that Bao always hated Subject 3972 because they shared similar powers, except Lee's abilities were much stronger than his. At the same time, Jenny wakes up inside Kang's house, where Kang explains that Sun brought her there after finding her unconscious. When Jenny checks her clothes and discovers actual bullet holes in them, she realizes the ship incident was completely real and not just another hallucination. Shocked, Jenny tells Kang that she may actually have superpowers now. Kang becomes equally terrified and admits that he accidentally punched through part of his wall earlier without understanding how. The two quickly rush to check on Sun, only to find him awkwardly pretending everything is normal while his body is literally stuck to a metal object nearby. Jenny and Kang immediately realize Sun has powers too, leaving all three completely confused about what is happening to them. Sun nervously reveals that Lee also has supernatural abilities and even tried killing Jenny earlier that morning. Hearing that instantly shocks Jenny, and she immediately decides to confront Lee at his workplace. However, when she arrives, Lee pretends he has no idea what she is talking about and repeatedly tries avoiding her. Jenny stubbornly refuses to leave him alone and keeps following him everywhere until Lee finally escapes outside, pretending he suddenly has work to do. Even then, Jenny simply drags Kang and Sun along to continue following him anyway. Meanwhile, Jenny's grandmother receives terrible news. Choi, the man she planned to meet, has suddenly died. When she visits his body, she is told that he supposedly ended his own life and left behind a message mentioning her before his death. In the letter, Choi claims Dr. Ha was unfairly blamed 20 years ago and insists he never personally harmed the children. This immediately makes Jenny's grandmother realize someone must have silenced him. Soon afterward, it is revealed that Dr. Ha has finally been released from prison with help from a mysterious supporter who orders him to continue searching for the immortal child. The first thing Dr. Ha does after his release is investigate Choi's place. Once he learns that Jenny's grandmother may know something important, he sends one of the girls from the organization to eliminate Choi, using her terrifying mind control abilities. It is also revealed that their new headquarters is hidden inside the mysterious church from earlier. Around the same time, 2 police officers visit the church to investigate the recent disappearances happening around the city. A strange woman warmly welcomes them and gives them a tour of the building, which appears peaceful and beautiful from the outside. The officers slowly begin lowering their guard, especially after she casually offers to show them the church's private cafe downstairs. When they enter the lower floor, the officers are amazed by how luxurious and comfortable everything looks. What they do not realize is that the entire environment is actually a massive illusion created by the woman's supernatural powers. Completely deceived by the hallucination, the officers eventually leave the church without suspecting anything suspicious. However, one of the officers continues sweating heavily afterward for reasons he cannot explain, leaving him strangely unsettled, despite everything appearing perfectly normal. Meanwhile, Jenny, Kang, and Sun continue bothering Lee with endless questions about superpowers while sitting in front of him inside the car. Lee quickly gets annoyed by their non-stop talking and acts like he wants nothing to do with them. The moment he loses focus, Jenny secretly steals his bag and forces him to come along with them anyway. The 3 continue questioning him about their strange abilities, but Lee coldly tells them he does not fully understand the powers himself and honestly does not even want to know anymore. Completely exhausted by them, Lee finally throws them out of the car and tells them to leave him alone. However, before they can even finish arguing, they suddenly witness a police car crashing off the side of the road. Without hesitation, the group rushes to save the officers trapped inside. Lee quickly pulls one officer from the wreckage, while Jenny and Kang try rescuing the second man. However, the officer's body looks strangely swollen and unnatural, making them feel something is seriously wrong. Jenny immediately tells Sun to hurry and find water before the burning car explodes, while she and Kang desperately try moving the injured officer away from danger. At the same time, she keeps yelling at Lee to stop standing there and use his powers to help like a normal human being. Reluctantly, Lee finally uses his abilities to move the damaged vehicle aside. Unfortunately, Kang mistakenly thinks the strength came from him instead, proudly believing he somehow developed incredible powers overnight. After struggling for several minutes, they finally manage to pull the officer free. Suddenly, Sun comes running back completely terrified and swears he saw a strange creature inside the water wink at him. Of course, nobody believes him. While trying to put out the fire, Sun accidentally touches the vehicle and instantly becomes stuck to it with his magnetic powers. To make things even worse, Kang also gets trapped against him. Panicking, Jenny desperately begs Lee to help them before the car explodes. Lee quickly uses his powers to separate Kang from Sun before rushing back to save Sun himself. This time, Lee fully unleashes his ability, pulling Sun away, using a piece of the wrecked car before throwing the burning vehicle far enough away for the explosion to happen safely. After surviving such a terrifying night together, Jenny becomes weirdly excited and proudly tells everyone they should officially become a superhero team. Lee immediately refuses because he clearly wants absolutely no part in their chaos and simply asks them to drop him off somewhere and leave him alone. Meanwhile, Kang and Sun happily celebrate the possibility that maybe the city will reward them for saving the officers. Unlike them, Lee secretly returns home and begins investigating everything more seriously. After gathering information from city records, he finally discovers that the strange drainage water is what transformed all 3 of them into superhumans. Even one of the police officers was affected after being exposed to it. Tracing the water system further, Lee eventually realizes the contaminated drain leads directly back to the mysterious church headquarters, confirming that Dr. Ha is secretly operating there again. At the same time, Jenny, Kang, and Sun visit the hospital, hoping to check on the rescued officers, only to discover that nobody matching their descriptions was ever admitted there. When they contact the ambulance service itself, they are horrified to learn the officers have completely disappeared without a trace after being picked up. The three immediately begin fearing that some hidden organization might already know about people with powers and could come after them next. Unfortunately, their fears are completely correct. The organization already captured the transformed officers and secretly transported them back to the church headquarters. Meanwhile, after fully understanding what is happening, Lee prepares to leave quietly when Bao suddenly appears before him. Bao calmly tells Lee it would be better if he came willingly to meet their father. Lee becomes disgusted, hearing Dr. Ha still called that after everything he did to the children years ago. However, Bao explains that he actually loves Dr. Ha because he was the one who gave his life meaning. Bao proudly reveals that he now helps Dr. Ha gather defective, transformed people and eliminate them. Hearing this finally makes Lee understand the horrifying truth. Anyone whose transformation becomes unstable is quietly killed by the organization. That is exactly why the rescued officer disappeared. Shortly afterward, Jenny rushes to Lee again and tells him everything she discovered at the hospital about the missing officers. Realizing the danger they are all in, Lee seriously warns her to hide her powers from everyone if she wants to survive. Jenny immediately starts begging him to teach her how to control her ability properly, but Lee ignores her completely. Refusing to give up, Jenny keeps following him around and clinging to him nonstop. Suddenly, one of Lee's co-workers appears nearby, so Jenny instantly teleports away to avoid being seen. When she reappears moments later, Lee casually uses his powers to lift her into the air and pin her directly against the ceiling. Instead of being scared, Jenny becomes completely fascinated and excited by what he can do. Laughing in amazement, she asks him how someone could possibly hide powers that incredible for so long, making Lee realize once again that this girl might actually be crazier than everyone already thinks she is. Jenny nervously asks Lee what would happen if her powers suddenly disappeared one day. Since she technically already died once before coming back to life, she fears losing her abilities might kill her again. Surprisingly, Lee calmly reassures her that she will not die if her powers disappear. Hearing those words instantly makes Jenny unbelievably happy. She leaves his office smiling brightly and excitedly celebrates by herself outside. Watching her from a distance, Lee quietly finds himself amused by her cheerful personality without fully understanding why. However, just as Lee is about to head back inside, he notices Bao secretly watching Jenny nearby and realizes he may attack her at any moment. Without explaining anything, Lee quickly approaches Jenny and casually tells her to return to the office with him. Completely unaware that he is actually protecting her, Jenny happily follows him while assuming he finally decided to hire her. The moment they return, Jenny excitedly calls her grandmother to tell her the news. Her grandmother becomes overjoyed too and proudly shares the good news with everyone working at the restaurant. Unfortunately, while celebrating, Jenny's grandmother suddenly receives unexpected visitors. Standing before her are several transformed superhumans who completely worship Dr. Ha like a savior. These people genuinely believe he rescued them years ago during the orphanage explosion. Back then, Dr. Ha supposedly told them to escape first while he stayed behind, and they never forgot that moment. Ever since his release from prison, they have remained loyal to him and are willing to do absolutely anything for him, especially because they believe their unstable transformations can still be fixed if they manage to find the immortal child. While speaking with them, Jenny's grandmother asks Dr. Ha how he managed to get out of prison after all these years. Dr. Ha coldly replies that she is partly responsible for everything because she funded his research long ago while pretending she only wanted to help sick children. Shocked, she insists she never knew how horrifying his experiments truly became. Dr. Ha sarcastically tells her that if lying to herself helps her sleep better, then she should continue believing that. He then directly asks her where the immortal child is. Jenny's grandmother firmly claims the child died years ago, but one of the girls beside Dr. Ha uses her mind control abilities to forcefully question her again. Even under pressure, Jenny's grandmother refuses to change her answer. It is then revealed that the immortal child could never truly die. Dr. Ha repeatedly experimented on him for years, and although the child physically died many times, he always returned to life afterward, while suffering unimaginable pain every single time. The person forced to witness all of this was Lee himself. Back then, Lee cared deeply about the immortal boy, and eventually lost control after seeing him tortured repeatedly. In a moment of rage, Lee destroyed the entire facility, causing the massive explosion 20 years ago. Since that day, nobody has known what happened to the immortal child, and even Lee has continued secretly searching for him. When Lee saw Jenny return to life after dying, he briefly suspected she might somehow be connected to the immortal boy, but eventually convinced himself he was wrong because the child he remembered was definitely a boy. Meanwhile, the organization decides not to harm Jenny for now and leaves the restaurant. Shortly afterward, they spot Jenny outside, happily enjoying her new powers. She excitedly realizes that if she properly learns how to control teleportation, she could travel anywhere in the world without needing money, tickets, or even transportation. The next day, Lee calls Jenny and asks her to help him with some work, but she immediately drags Kang and Sun along with her. Lee's co-workers stare in disbelief after realizing he somehow ended up working with these chaotic idiots. Not long later, members of the church suddenly arrive claiming they simply came to help clean the streets. However, Lee instantly understands the truth. They are actually there to capture Jenny because they suspect her transformation may have failed. Worried for her safety, Lee quickly grabs Jenny, Kang, and Sun and hides them inside a room. He tells them to begin training immediately and figure out exactly when and how their powers activate. The three awkwardly begin experimenting while trying to understand their strange abilities. At the same time, inside the church headquarters, the organization quietly eliminates another transformed person whose powers became unstable. Watching this happen terrifies one of the girls, who nervously asked whether the same thing could happen to them someday. Her friend calmly tells her to trust Father Dr. Ha and continue focusing on finding the immortal child instead. Meanwhile, a detective investigating Jenny's disappearance visits her grandmother again after reviewing security footage from the restaurant. He reveals that the transformed people only appeared clearly in one single recording. The footage shows Bal spotting Jenny from a distance before telling Dr. Ha that she is the girl constantly seen around Lee. Dr. Ha immediately ordered Bal to capture her, but before Bal could even reach Jenny, she mysteriously disappeared right in front of him. Watching this footage, Jenny's grandmother, completely shocked and more terrified than ever about what her granddaughter is truly becoming. Jenny's grandmother is already disturbed by the security footage, but what shocks her even more is suddenly noticing that the detective speaking to her calls her by the wrong name. At the exact same moment, the real detective phones her from somewhere else. Instantly realizing the man standing in front of her is fake, she watches his appearance slowly change into the illusion girl from the organization. The girl calmly explains that she came to learn the location of the immortal child for their father. Furious, Jenny's grandmother snaps at her and asks how she could possibly call Dr. Ha her father after everything he did to them. The girl bitterly replies that at least Dr. Ha stayed with the transformed children, unlike the adults who abandoned them after saving only the children who had not changed yet. Hearing that breaks Jenny's grandmother's heart because she realizes just how deeply Dr. Ha manipulated all of them emotionally. Still, the illusion girl threatens her and warns that if she refuses to reveal the immortal child's location, she will trap her inside endless hallucinations and make her live in permanent misery. Jenny's grandmother coldly laughs and tells her that the past 20 years of guilt and suffering already felt like hell anyway. Frustrated, the girl eventually leaves. The moment she disappears, Jenny's grandmother immediately contacts the real detective and desperately begs him to find Jenny before the organization reaches her first. Meanwhile, Lee encounters the completely insane leader of the church group, a man who genuinely believes their supernatural powers are miracles from heaven. The fanatic blindly obeys Bal's every command and even calmly tells Lee that he is about to die simply because they decided it should happen. Before the situation can go any further, Bal suddenly attacks and immediately kills the church leader himself without hesitation. A brutal fight quickly begins between Bal and Lee, but right in the middle of the battle, Jenny accidentally teleports directly into the area. She is horrified by the destruction happening around her. Just as Bal throws a car toward her, Jenny panics and teleports herself back to Kang and Sun. Still terrified, Jenny hurriedly warns them that Lee is in danger, but the moment she grabs Kang, her powers activate again and accidentally teleport both of them straight back into the fight. Bal immediately tries killing all three of them at once by hurling another vehicle directly toward them. Without thinking, Jenny runs forward and throws herself in front of Lee to protect him. The impact sends both of them crashing beneath the car. Bal confidently assumes he has finally won, only to suddenly watch Kang casually lift the entire vehicle off them using pure strength. Completely stunned, Bal realizes Kang transformed too and mocks him as another defective experiment. Kang, however, remains too clueless to even understand what is happening and proudly acts like he is simply incredibly strong. No matter how hard Bal attacks afterward, everything around Kang gets destroyed except Kang himself. Meanwhile, Jenny accidentally teleports herself and Lee away from the battle again. This time, she successfully reaches the exact place she had always dreamed of visiting. Unfortunately, there is one terrible problem. During the attack, something pierced Jenny's neck, and she slowly begins dying in front of Lee's eyes. Lee desperately watches her lose consciousness, but moments later, Jenny suddenly wakes up again as if death itself rejected her. Jenny remains completely confused about what happened, while Lee quietly starts suspecting even more strongly that Jenny may somehow be connected to the immortal child. However, after using his powers so intensely during the fight, Lee suddenly collapses from exhaustion. Bao also becomes badly weakened from overusing his own abilities, causing Joe to angrily scold him for recklessly fighting Lee in the first place. Meanwhile, Ran quietly questions why Bao hates Lee so much. Although she pretends Lee means nothing to her, the truth is completely different. Years earlier, Ran used her illusion abilities to comfort Lee during the painful experiments, creating small, happy hallucinations that made him smile for the first time. Since then, she secretly developed feelings for him and never truly forgot him. After escaping the battle, Jenny and Kong bring the unconscious Lee back to his apartment and try treating his injuries together. While helping him, they finally notice how horrifyingly scarred his body really is, realizing he must have suffered unimaginable pain throughout his life. Later, Kang and Sun excitedly explain to Lee that they actually fought against a powerful superhuman from Wonderkinder and somehow survived. Even while joking around, the three slowly begin understanding that their lives are becoming more dangerous with every passing day. Kang excitedly tells Lee that they fought someone incredibly powerful from Wonderkinder, making Sun nervously wonder if that means they are part of the organization too. Lee quickly shuts that idea down and explains that the organization actually considers them failures and defective experiments. Hearing that completely crushes Sun's confidence. Meanwhile, Jenny's grandmother sends her detective to secretly investigate the fight between Bao and Lee. When he arrives at the destroyed scene, he discovers human blood everywhere, but cannot figure out whose blood it is. Back at Lee's apartment, Jenny quietly stays beside him because she genuinely feels bad for everything he has gone through. While he sleeps, she hears him softly calling out for his mother in his dreams, and the pain in his voice deeply affects her. She carefully remains near him because even unconsciously, he keeps holding onto her hand. Later, Jenny returns to her grandmother's house, gathers some supplies, cleans Lee's messy apartment, and even cooks food for him. When Lee wakes up and sees everything she did for him, he becomes quietly emotional, though he tries not to show it. The next day at work, Lee finds Jenny, Kang, and Sun already waiting for him, completely filling his office with questions about Wonderkinder and how they can fight against people like them. Lee honestly warns them that the members of Wonderkinder are extremely dangerous and could easily kill all of them, so it would be smarter to stay away. Unfortunately, Rand secretly overhears their conversation and becomes confused, seeing Lee protecting these so-called losers. What surprises her even more is discovering that Lee is personally training them instead of abandoning them. During training, Lee tells them to figure out exactly when their powers activate. They eventually discover that Kang's strength appears whenever someone humiliates or angers him. Sun's ability activates when he lies, although they still cannot fully control it. Jenny's teleportation, however, only activates when her heartbeat rises dramatically. Since they cannot trigger it consistently, Jenny starts getting frustrated and nearly gives up. Suddenly, she sees a cockroach and panics, instantly trying to kill it in fear. Lee immediately realizes something is wrong because more insects suddenly appear everywhere around them. It turns out Ran is secretly using her illusion powers to make them hallucinate, so they start attacking each other. Ran later confronts Lee directly and questions why he keeps choosing these people over his old family. Lee becomes irritated, hearing her still defend Dr. Ha and the organization, especially when she insists they are all still one family. Once Rand begins crossing the line, Lee forces her away from the group, causing the hallucinations to disappear immediately. That night, while sitting together quietly, Lee finally tells Jenny the truth about Ran. He explains that she is also searching for the immortal child, and reveals that years ago, the immortal boy was someone very close to him. The child could never truly die, no matter how many times the experiments killed him. However, Lee eventually lost track of him for so many years that he started believing the boy may have finally disappeared forever. Jenny becomes confused and asks how that is possible if the child was truly immortal. Lee calmly replies that Jenny herself already survived death once, which is exactly why he suspected her from the beginning. He also reveals another horrifying truth. Jenny's grandmother secretly funded Dr. Ha's experiments for years. The revelation completely shatters Jenny. She immediately rushes to confront her grandmother and asks about the heart surgery she received when she was only 7 years old. Her grandmother tearfully confesses that Jenny had been dying back then. Around the same time, the laboratory explosion happened and the immortal child was still alive inside the facility. Choi convinced her that transplanting the child's heart into Jenny was the only way to save her life. Hearing this devastates Jenny because she realizes an innocent child suffered because of her survival, while her grandmother unknowingly helped finance the horrifying experiments as well. Unable to process the guilt, Jenny wanders through the streets crying alone, completely unable to face Lee afterward. When Lee notices her pain, he quietly follows and protects her from a distance without forcing her to talk. Jenny refuses to return home and instead spends the night at Kang's place. The following morning, she does not even show up for work, causing Lee to grow increasingly worried about her. Meanwhile, inside the church, Jenny's grandmother sends a spy detective to secretly record everything happening there. The footage reveals that the church members truly believe Bal and his followers possess divine miracles and that the world will end before the year is over. Bal even publicly uses his powers to help a disabled boy stand and walk again, making the people worship him even more instead of realizing he simply has supernatural abilities. Later that night, Jenny finally visits Lee again. The moment he sees her, he notices she has not eaten anything all day, so he quietly goes outside to buy food for her himself. While they sit together eating, Jenny emotionally admits she does not know how to apologize because her grandmother's actions indirectly destroyed Lee's childhood and took away the person he cared about most. Lee gently tells her that none of it was her fault and that she should stop blaming herself for sins committed by adults long before she understood anything. Later that night, Jenny visits her grandmother and honestly tells her that she still cannot fully forgive what happened in the past. However, she also makes it clear that she will never allow anyone to hurt her grandmother either. Hearing those words makes her grandmother emotional because despite everything, Jenny still chose to stay beside her. But while her grandmother thinks things are finally getting better, Jenny secretly packs all her belongings and suddenly moves into Lee's apartment instead. To make things even more chaotic, Jenny confidently tells Lee that she also brought Kang with her because it would be inappropriate for a man and woman to stay alone together. According to her logic, two men staying together is completely fine. Lee is left speechless and basically forced to accept the situation. He finally falls asleep relieved that at least Sun did not show up too. Unfortunately, the very next morning, Sun arrives at the apartment and casually starts eating breakfast there, while Lee is already exhausted at work. As they continue training their powers, they finally discover the exact trigger behind Sun's ability. His power activates whenever he lies. Jenny's teleportation, meanwhile, activates every time her heartbeat rises rapidly. They eventually realize caffeine affects her instantly, so every time she drinks coffee, she begins teleporting uncontrollably from one place to another. Instead of panicking, Jenny starts having fun with it and uses her powers to travel around shopping and exploring places freely. At one point, Lee asks if she can teleport while holding another person. Jenny immediately grabs him and teleports both of them straight to the beach. Honestly, she almost leaves him stranded there as revenge for constantly teasing her, but Lee keeps calling her non-stop until she finally returns to get him. The funniest part is that every time Lee suddenly runs toward her, Jenny's heartbeat rises again and she accidentally teleports away. This keeps happening over and over until Lee finally gives up and returns home alone using normal transportation. When he finally gets back, Jenny surprises him with a small birthday celebration. Lee himself did not even remember it was his birthday. Jenny even goes out personally to buy him a cake, making the moment unexpectedly sweet. For the first time in years, Lee genuinely looks happy. But the atmosphere suddenly changes when Lee quietly tells Jenny to stop judging people too quickly. Before she can understand what he means, he secretly drugs her drink. It is then revealed that Lee had already made a deal with Dr. Ha behind everyone's backs. In exchange for information about his real family and access to his original file, Lee agreed to help them search for the immortal child. Meanwhile, Sun becomes suspicious after realizing both Lee and Jenny disappeared. When he goes looking for them, he accidentally discovers Lee's betrayal and immediately panics. He rushes to warn Kang and save Jenny, but because he always sounds ridiculous, nobody believes him at first. Desperate, Sun even tells his wife that he cannot stand living with her anymore. But the moment he says it, his hand suddenly sticks to something because his powers react whenever he lies. He instantly breaks down crying after realizing even his own abilities know he is lying. Meanwhile, Jenny is taken back to the secret facility while the others remain completely unaware of what is happening. Inside the laboratory, Dr. Ha's team prepares to sedate Jenny, but she suddenly wakes up early and starts mocking the entire place, saying it looks exactly like a crazy scientist's underground lab from a horror movie. Dr. Ha completely ignores her jokes and calmly continues preparing his experiment. Thinking quickly, Jenny secretly pulls out coffee jelly from her pocket. The moment she eats it, her heartbeat spikes and she teleports away instantly. At the same time, Lee finally opens his hidden file and discovers the truth about his family. His father is dead, but his mother is still alive somewhere. Before he can even process the shock, Jenny suddenly teleports directly in front of him. Furious and heartbroken, she grabs him and demands to know why he betrayed her. Lee quietly hands her another coffee jelly and reveals that he intentionally never told Dr. Ha about caffeine triggering her teleportation powers. In reality, he secretly gave her a way to escape. Jenny is so emotional she nearly starts crying in front of him. Embarrassed and trying to save face, she accidentally teleports away again without thinking, only to reappear right back inside the laboratory like an idiot. This time, the guards immediately knock her unconscious and fully prepare the operation room. When Jenny wakes up again, Dr. Ha coldly explains that they are going to sacrifice her so the remaining children can survive. To him, Jenny's life means nothing compared to the success of his experiments. Completely devastated, Jenny quietly asks if Lee at least gained something from betraying her like this. Dr. Ha calmly replies that Lee already received his reward because he finally learned where his mother is. Hearing that Lee finally learned where his mother was supposed to be completely breaks Jenny's heart. Deep down, she cannot even fully hate him because the reason behind his betrayal feels painfully understandable. The next morning, Jenny's grandmother prepares herself and goes to meet the second investor who helped fund the old project years ago. But when she arrives, she discovers he has already been transferred to the church. The moment she hears that, terror fills her heart because she immediately realizes Jenny is in serious danger. At the same time, Sun finally tells Kang everything he discovered about Lee's deal with Dr. Ha and Jenny's kidnapping. Kang completely loses his mind hearing the news and insists they have to save Jenny immediately. Sun keeps telling him to stop acting foolish and save himself instead, but Kang refuses to back down because Jenny was the only person who ever protected him back in school. Years ago, everyone used to bully and humiliate him constantly, but after Jenny became his friend, people became too scared to touch him anymore. The first thing Kang does is confront Lee directly and demand to know where Jenny is being held. Lee initially refuses to answer, but then Jenny's grandmother calls him as well. When he visits her house, he accidentally sees Jenny's old bucket list, simple dreams she wanted to achieve before dying, including surviving long enough to reach the age of 30. Reading her wishes quietly destroys him inside. Jenny's grandmother sincerely apologizes to Lee because she now understands he was one of the children destroyed by the project she helped finance. Lee coldly tells her that apologies cannot fix the past anymore. Still, she begs him to tell her where Jenny is because she does not care about anything else now except saving her granddaughter. Lee leaves without answering, but outside, Kang and Sun continue following him, desperately asking about Jenny too. Eventually, Lee stops running from the truth. He contacts Jenny's grandmother again and admits that he betrayed Jenny because he was desperate to find his mother. Surprisingly, instead of hating him, the grandmother understands his pain. She immediately promises to help him rescue Jenny and gathers people to assist them. Lee then returns to work and secretly asks his manager for a detailed map of the church facility from the inside. Once he gets it, the group finally begins preparing a rescue plan. Meanwhile, inside the underground laboratory, Dr. Ha successfully creates a temporary serum using Jenny's blood. When he tests it on laboratory rats, the results actually work, making him unbelievably excited. However, the other enhanced humans around him grow nervous and begin questioning why he never told them he had already found the immortal child. Joe becomes suspicious and even tries using her powers to control Dr. Ha's mind, but he easily manipulates her emotions instead, reminding her how much he loves her like a daughter. Sadly, she falls for his lies again. Outside the church, chaos suddenly erupts as townspeople begin causing a loud disturbance. In reality, the entire thing is part of Jenny's grandmother's plan to distract the guards long enough for Lee, Kang, Sun, and the detective to sneak inside through the back entrance. During the infiltration, one of the men recognizes Lee and emotionally reveals that he was also one of the children connected to the project. Thankfully, because Lee destroyed the laboratory years ago, he and 20 other children escaped before the experiments could begin on them. Hearing that truth deeply affects Lee because, for the first time, he realizes he actually saved lives that day. The group finally storms into the facility together, taking down guards one after another while trying to reach Jenny before the operation begins. At the same time, Jenny is horrified after discovering they have brought in an elderly rich man who plans to receive her heart transplant. Furious, she sarcastically asks Dr. Ha whether this old man is supposed to save the world too. Dr. Ha coldly replies that the man is wealthy and important, unlike her, and therefore deserves the immortal heart more than she does. Jenny finally explodes emotionally after hearing those words. She refuses to accept being treated like her life means nothing. Through tears, she tells them that she matters to her grandmother, to her friends, and to the people who truly love her. She screams that she does not want to die. Even while terrified, she keeps resisting with everything she has left. Just before the surgery can begin, Lee, Kang, and Sun finally burst into the room and completely destroy the operation site while fighting through everyone to save Jenny before it is too late. Jenny becomes deeply emotional the moment Lee suddenly rushes toward her. He intentionally gets close enough to make her heartbeat rise, knowing that her teleportation powers will activate instantly. The second her heart starts racing, Jenny teleports away from the laboratory exactly as Lee planned. Before disappearing, he quietly tells her to go somewhere safe. Out of every possible place in the world, Jenny chooses to teleport straight to Lee's apartment, leaving her poor grandmother completely abandoned after raising her all these years. While Jenny prepares herself there to return and help the others, Lee suddenly finds himself facing Bal and Ran alone. Bal has no interest in talking anymore and immediately tries to destroy everyone in front of him. The only person brave enough to stand against him is Kang, who surprisingly refuses to run away this time. Meanwhile, Ran begins attacking Lee psychologically instead of physically. She traps him inside terrifying illusions and makes him see his old friend begging desperately for help. The guilt crushes Lee emotionally, causing his powers to spiral out of control and shake the entire area around them. During all this chaos, Sun desperately keeps lying over and over again, so his sticky powers keep him attached firmly to the ground instead of getting thrown away by Lee's uncontrollable telekinesis. Jenny eventually teleports back and rushes directly toward Lee, trying to calm him down before he completely loses control. Surprisingly, the moment she reaches him, he immediately calms down. Lee quietly confesses that he truly wanted to save his childhood friend back then, but simply could not do it. Right after saying that, he collapses unconscious from exhaustion. Jenny quickly tells Kang and Sun to carry Lee, but both of them admit they honestly cannot lift him properly. She immediately tells them to grab onto her instead so she can teleport all of them away together. The teleportation works perfectly for everyone except Sun, because his powers make him stick to the floor again at the worst possible moment. As Bal slowly starts waking up nearby, Sun desperately tries to figure out what lie caused his powers to activate. Then he finally realizes the truth. He actually could have carried Lee earlier, but he lied because he simply did not want to. The second he admits it honestly, his powers release him immediately, and he runs away screaming for his life. Meanwhile, Jenny accidentally teleports herself and the others right back into the church again. She quickly tells Kang to stay hidden while she searches for another solution. Jenny then secretly teleports into Dr. Ha's laboratory and witnesses something horrifying. Dr. Ha injects the elderly rich man with the serum created from Jenny's blood. For a few seconds, the old man miraculously becomes young again and cannot believe what is happening to his body. But before he can even celebrate, he suddenly begins aging rapidly in reverse until he literally dies in front of everyone. Jenny is horrified by the terrifying scene. However, the rich man had already prepared for betrayal and ordered his guards to kill Dr. Ha and everyone involved if anything went wrong. Before the guards can attack, Joe quickly controls their minds and forces them outside. Hidden nearby, Jenny overhears them discussing how they now need even larger amounts of her blood so they can continue testing until they finally perfect the serum. Realizing they will never stop hunting her, Jenny immediately decides to escape quietly. Unfortunately, she accidentally makes a noise while sneaking away, and Bal almost catches her. Thinking quickly, Jenny drinks coffee and teleports away again. The moment Dr. Ha sees this happen, he immediately tries chasing after her himself. Joe desperately attempts to stop him because his body is already unstable, and using his powers again could completely destroy his heart. However, Dr. Ha refuses to listen because he is obsessed with completing his experiments. Joe then tries controlling his mind again, only to discover Dr. Ha secretly placed special devices in everyone's ears so she could never fully manipulate them anymore. Realizing he never truly trusted her completely shatters her emotionally. At the same time, Jenny teleports back into the crowded church hall where the entire town has gathered. Everyone is confused seeing her suddenly appear because she is literally their neighbor, and they all know her personally. At first, Jenny plans to quietly grab Kang and escape, but her personality gets the better of her. Instead of leaving silently, she starts passionately arguing with the church followers and tries convincing them that they are blindly believing lies. She keeps talking nonstop until Joe finally loses her patience completely and uses her powers to control the minds of everyone inside the church. Instantly, the people begin moving like hypnotized puppets as Joe commands them to capture the intruders and bring them to Bal. When the detective sees the townspeople suddenly behaving like zombies, he immediately informs Jenny's grandmother, who activates the second phase of their rescue plan. Inside the church, the controlled crowd attacks Jenny and nearly captures her, but Lee suddenly appears after regaining consciousness and pulls her away at the last second. Kang also joins them as they desperately try, escaping through the chaos. For one dramatic moment, Kang almost sacrifices himself in the middle of the hallway like a hero from a disaster movie, but seconds later he panics and runs right back toward them again. Unfortunately, they still are not safe because Bal appears directly in front of them once more. Lee immediately tells Jenny to teleport Kang away first and then come back for him afterward. Jenny reluctantly follows his instructions, while Lee stays behind, alone, to hold Bal back. Meanwhile, Sun secretly crawls through the church corridors and accidentally discovers something horrifying hidden deep inside the building. Sun secretly follows the church members deeper into the building and suddenly discovers something horrifying. Hidden underground, they are dumping dead bodies into a strange acid that literally melts human flesh within seconds. Even worse, enormous containers of the same chemical are already prepared to be released during the city festival. The moment Sun realizes they plan to spray the acid over innocent people, he immediately thinks about his daughter, who is performing at the celebration that night. Terrified, Sun tries escaping quickly, but several brainwashed church followers suddenly surround him. At first, he hilariously attempts to imitate them because he thinks they are acting like zombies, but obviously the plan completely fails. Just before they can catch him, Jenny suddenly appears holding a chainsaw and scares them away. Sun frantically tells her the world is about to end, and Jenny immediately snaps back, asking if he has officially joined the cult now too. Panicking, Sun explains everything he overheard about the acid attack and the festival. Jenny becomes completely horrified after learning the truth. Things get even worse when she returns to where Lee and Bao were fighting and discovers that neither of them are there anymore. Bao is already collapsing and barely alive, causing Joe to completely lose control emotionally. Meanwhile, Jenny quickly teleports Sun outside the church to keep him safe before returning again to help the townspeople trapped inside the cult's influence. Thankfully, Jenny's grandmother arrives and activates the church microphone system, helping break the mind control affecting the citizens. One by one, people begin waking up in confusion, unable to understand why they were even gathered there in the first place. At the same time, Lee barely manages to return to the underground facility again because he desperately needs answers from Dr. Ha before everything ends. There, Dr. Ha finally reveals the full truth behind his experiments. Years ago, he gathered 75 children for testing. 25 died almost immediately. Of the remaining 50, only half survived the transformation process, while the others died horribly during experimentation. The immortal child was one of the survivors. After witnessing that miracle, Dr. Ha became obsessed with the idea that if he spread the same chemical across the entire city, maybe more immortal beings would be created. Lee is disgusted hearing this and calls him completely insane because countless innocent people already died because of these experiments. But Dr. Ha calmly replies that the survivors were worth the sacrifice. Realizing there is no saving him anymore, Lee decides Dr. Ha has to die before he destroys even more lives. Suddenly, armed men surround Lee and point their weapons directly at him. Joe manipulates them into firing all at once, but to everyone's shock, Lee controls every bullet in midair with his powers and sends them flying back toward the attackers. One stray bullet even hits Dr. Ha himself. A massive explosion erupts through the facility, and Jenny instantly senses it from outside. She teleports inside immediately to save Lee, but when she arrives, she only finds injured soldiers trapped beneath the wreckage. Jenny starts rescuing them one by one while desperately searching for Lee everywhere. Eventually, it is revealed that Kim, the guard who had been imprisoned all this time, secretly escaped and saved Lee moments before the explosion. Kim emotionally apologizes for failing to help him years ago when Lee begged him to open the door during the original laboratory disaster. This time, however, Kim finally uses his powers to free Lee and tells him to escape properly. Meanwhile, Joe rushes toward Dr. Ha after finding him barely alive beneath the destruction. Desperate to save him, she attempts injecting him with the remaining serum. But the moment the serum enters his body, Dr. Ha's heart suddenly stops completely. Joe completely breaks down from grief and rage. In her madness, she takes control of everyone nearby, including the detective, and forces him to threaten Jenny's grandmother directly. Jenny immediately teleports her grandmother away to safety before the chaos can spread further. Outside, the city festival is already beginning. Families, children, and neighbors happily prepare for the celebration, completely unaware that they are moments away from disaster. Even Sun's wife and daughter are there. When Sun desperately tries warning everyone, nobody believes him. The townspeople actually defend the church because it helped many struggling families in the past. Completely frustrated, Sun nearly gives up until Kang appears beside him. The two finally decide they cannot abandon innocent people no matter how hopeless things seem. Jenny joins them too, insisting they have to stop Dr. Ha's plan before the acid reaches the festival. Sun argues that none of these people would even help them if the situation were reversed, but Jenny quietly reminds him that these are still their neighbors, classmates, co-workers, and friends. Hearing that finally gives Sun the courage to keep fighting. The three split up and begin searching the trucks carrying the chemical containers. Unfortunately, the festival performance has already started. Sun pauses for a moment to watch his daughter proudly standing on stage before rushing back into the chaos. At that exact moment, Jenny finally reunites with Lee and feels relieved seeing him alive, only to realize something is horribly wrong. Joe has taken control of Lee's mind. Suddenly, Lee turns against them, and during his violent confrontation with Kang, cars begin flying through the air above the middle of the festival performance. Panicked, Sun quickly grabs his wife and daughter and hides them somewhere safe. He places headphones over his daughter's ears so she cannot hear the terrifying chaos outside. Then, in one heartbreaking moment, Sun quietly tells his wife that despite everything, he still truly loves her before running back into the chaos to help Jenny. At the same time, Jenny desperately tries to wake Lee from Joe's mind control, but she fails, and Lee suddenly grabs her by the neck. With no other choice, Jenny teleports both of them deep into a cave far away from everyone else. Finally, Lee slowly breaks free from Joe's control and immediately hugs her tightly, clearly terrified of what he almost did to her. Jenny is deeply emotional seeing him finally return to himself. The two rush back to help Sun and Kang, only to discover that Joe is still controlling dozens of innocent civilians. The brainwashed people begin attacking them from every direction. Even while defending themselves, the group desperately tries not to seriously hurt anyone because they know these are still normal people being manipulated against their will. Sun's wife and daughter watch the entire thing in complete shock, unable to believe that the pathetic man they always looked down on is now risking his life to protect everyone. Meanwhile, Sun fully masters his strange power at last. Since his ability activates whenever he lies, he keeps making ridiculous lies nonstop, so his body can remain attached to the giant structure Jenny plans to teleport away. Even after moving large groups of civilians to safety, the attacks continue endlessly. That is when they realize none of this will stop unless Joe herself is defeated. Sun finally tracks Joe down alone. Every time she tries speaking to manipulate him, he immediately interrupts her before she can finish a sentence. The non-stop talking completely ruins her attempts to control his mind. Furious, Sun asks her what innocent people ever did to deserve all this suffering. Joe bitterly explains that nobody cared about them when they were suffering years ago, so why should she care about anyone now? Sun angrily snaps back that being hurt is not an excuse to destroy innocent lives. Just as he is about to stop her completely, controlled civilians suddenly attack him from behind, causing him to fall from the building and lose consciousness. Joe herself is also collapsing because she pushed her powers too far. Believing she is about to die just like Bao, she tells her sister Ran to avenge them no matter what happens. Believing she is about to die just like Bao, she tells her sister Ran to avenge them no matter what happens. But moments later, something terrifying happens near Lee. Jenny suddenly appears and stabs him directly before whispering that this is her goodbye. Joe immediately orders one of her followers to kill Jenny, shocking everyone nearby. Then the real Jenny suddenly appears behind them, completely unharmed. Everyone freezes in confusion. If Jenny is standing there safely, then who stabbed Lee? The horrifying truth is revealed when they realize Ran used her illusion powers to trick everyone into seeing a fake Jenny. Even Joe herself was deceived. The fake Jenny who died was actually Ran all along. Joe completely breaks down emotionally after realizing her own sister sacrificed herself because of her obsession and hatred. As Ran slowly dies, Lee kneels beside her and sincerely thanks her for the happiness she once gave the children long ago. He tells her that her illusions were not meaningless because many lonely children smiled and laughed thanks to her. Hearing those words finally gives Ran peace for the first time in years. Suddenly, Kang notices that she still has a weak pulse, so he quickly carries her away, hoping someone can still save her. But before anyone can relax, they look up and discover a massive balloon floating above the city. Inside it is all the deadly acid prepared for the attack. If it explodes over the festival, thousands of people will die instantly. Jenny immediately tells Kang to throw both her and Sun high into the sky toward the balloon. Sun panics and starts yelling that he absolutely did not sign up for this insanity. But the moment he sees Joe controlling his wife again from below, he decides to help no matter how scared he is. Lee desperately wants to go with them, but Jenny convinces him to stay behind so he can safely catch Sun once everything is over. Kang then launches them into the air with his super strength. Sun uses his sticky powers to cling directly onto the balloon while Jenny climbs higher toward the center of it. Knowing the explosion is unavoidable now, Sun quietly says goodbye and lets go. As the city counts down to the new year below, Jenny reaches the balloon just as the final number is shouted. The balloon explodes instantly in the sky. At the very last second, Jenny teleports the entire explosion far away from the city, saving everyone. Afterward, nobody remembers exactly what happened except the main group. Sun's daughter still remembers pieces of the truth, though she quietly keeps it to herself while becoming incredibly proud of her father. Jenny, however, never returns. Weeks pass, and everyone slowly accepts that she probably died saving the city. They even hold a funeral and build her a grave. Then suddenly, during the funeral itself, Jenny casually appears out of nowhere, completely filthy, exhausted, and sunburned. Her grandmother nearly faints from happiness. It turns out Jenny teleported the explosion deep into the desert but got stranded there afterward and spent days trying to find her way back home. Everyone rushes to hug her, especially Lee. And after everything they went through together, Jenny finally returns home safely. The moment Lee sees her standing in front of the house, he tries acting calm like none of this affects him. But Jenny immediately smiles and asks him, "So, how is life without me?" Of course, Lee tries to act cool and mysterious as usual, pretending everything was completely fine without her around. But honestly, after everything they survived together, it's obvious she had already become one of the most important people in his life. Later, Lee finally visits his mother again, and despite all the years apart, she recognizes him immediately before he even says a word. Soon after, we see the four of them finally wearing official city uniforms together. After all the chaos, pain, and near-death moments they endured, they officially become members of the city staff, finally achieving the peaceful life they once dreamed about. For the first time in a long while, they're no longer running away from danger. They're protecting the city together. Meanwhile, Lee never forgets the promise he made to himself. After being separated for so many years, he continues visiting his mother, slowly rebuilding the connection he lost after such a tragic childhood. And honestly, seeing him finally reunited with family after carrying so much pain for so long was one of the most emotional moments in the entire story. At that point, it feels like everything has finally come to an end. The city is peaceful again. The people are safe. And our heroes finally get the happiness they fought so hard for. But of course, this drama wouldn't leave us without one final shocking twist. In the final moments, the man everyone believed was already dead, Dr. Ha, who was supposedly dead after the serum experiment, suddenly opens his eyes again. And honestly, if they ever make season 2, this psychopath is definitely coming back. This story might not be over yet. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way until the end. This recap took a lot of time and effort to make, so I truly hope you enjoyed every moment of it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because your support genuinely helps the channel grow more than you can imagine. And also, make sure to share this video with your friends, your family, or anyone who loves Korean dramas, fantasy stories, emotional thrillers, and insane plot twists like this one. If you love thriller and action stories, click the video on the left. And if you love emotional K-drama stories with crazy twists, click the video on the right. Thank you again for watching. And as always, this is K-Drama Recap World.